Alright, hello everyone. Today my presentation is called A Watershed in Motion. So my love for the wild started at a very young age. I grew up outside, spending most of the majority of my summers in a tiny cabin in South Central Oregon. My mom was a photographer, so seeing her run around with a camera sparked my interest in photography and storytelling at a really young age. But my love and curiosity for the natural world took hold, and I ended up going to school for environmental studies and fisheries and wildlife at the University of Nebraska. And like most EATR students entering the world of natural resources, I really wanted to save the world, but I was kind of having a difficult time finding my path. And then that was until my advisor told me about a class taught by Mike Forsberg and Mike Farrell called Wildlife Digital Imagery and Storytelling. So I was so excited about combining my initial love for photography and storytelling, and then also my newfound love for science and the natural world. So I immediately signed up, and then, basically from the rest is history. So today I serve as the producer and project manager for the Platte Basin Time-Lapse project, which I'm going to tell you guys about today. So in 2011, conservation photographer Mike Forsberg and Mike Farrell started the Platte Basin Time-Lapse project to answer this question: where does our water come from? And to set a watershed in motion by leveraging the power of photography and storytelling. So the Platte Basin drains 90,000 square miles in parts of 3 states: Wyoming, Colorado, and Nebraska. It is a semi-arid region, and it's located in the heart of North America. The Platte's legacy is that of a wild, braided prairie river, but in the last century, as America grew west, it's been mostly tamed, and today it waters one of the most important breadbaskets and agricultural powerhouses in the world. So the Platte gets its water from 3 sources: melting snowpack from the Rocky Mountains in Colorado and Wyoming, the Ogallala Aquifer, one of the largest groundwater reservoirs in the world, where almost half of its total volume lies underneath the Nebraska sandhills, and then also our region's weather. So when the project was started in 2011, the bathtub was full, most likely like it is right now. So this was the Platte River at Rose Sanctuary, which is on the main stem of the Platte, near Kearney, Nebraska. And then 1 year later, almost to date, somebody turned the water off, and the basin experienced historic drought conditions. But wouldn't it be cool if we could see the basin in the Platte River go from wet to dry? Well, now we can. By compressing time with time-lapse photography, what would take years to watch in real time can be compressed into just minutes or seconds. It really shows the landscape as a living, breathing organism. It can show us and teach us something about a watershed that we wouldn't normally see just through like data and numbers. So to date, we have roughly 60 time-lapse cameras, and I think we lost about 4 to flooding. And then the past 9 years that we've done the project, we've only lost 4 total, and then we lost 4 right in like 2 days. So our highest camera in the watershed is at Lake Agnes at 11,000 feet, and this is in Colorado. And then our lowest camera is located at the drain where the Platte and Missouri River confluence. And this is what our time-lapse camera looks like from the inside. So they're high-end DSLR camera systems, and some of them that have ability to connect to the satellite. We're able to connect it via Verizon, and whenever it takes a picture, it will send the image up to Dropbox. So we have almost a real-time view of, I think, half of our cameras now. So bear with me on sound. This is a time-lapse of a time-lapse camera being built and installed. It wants to play. we doing all of this, and what's the point of all these efforts? The Platte River Basin is one of the most appropriated river systems in the world. Every drop of water is spoken for and little is free. The basin supports an industrial agricultural powerhouse laid over one of the most endangered and altered grassland ecosystems on Earth. Beneath the ground, it harbors more than half of the mighty Ogallala Aquifer, fossil water whose quantity and quality are at stake. Today, the basin is being asked to be both food producer and energy pump in an age of climate change and economic uncertainty. So again, what do we hope to accomplish with this project? To answer the question, where does our water come from? What is the journey water takes to make it to your faucet or center pivot? What role do humans play in this journey, and what is at stake in our decisions? And what could we learn if we could see change on the landscape in a new way? Could we build community around seeing a watershed in this new way? Could this project be a template for other watersheds around the world? So this is what inspires us, and this is our aim. So all of those images you saw were taken by some of our time-lapse cameras over the years. Now we're going to take a more in-depth look at just one location, and I'm going to go through the different ways that we can use time-lapse. So this camera we have is at UNL's Gudmundsen Research Station, just north of Whitman, Nebraska. So time-lapse is not just limited to video. With more than 1 million images recorded, our project has the big ability to create many different styles of time-lapse presentations. So you can click through just image after image. Or you can tile those images together to show a year's worth of time. So this tiling represents the year of 2013. So I believe that's just about 365 images. Or you can string them together to watch a more traditional time-lapse of what you would think a time-lapse would be. So, you know, it just shows the landscape breathing. We can also merge, slice, and blend images together. So this image represents also the year 2013, and each strip is 1 month of each year. So in total, there's 12 strips. So this is a different location, but I wanted to show you this too. I believe Emma Brindley Buckley from UNK put this together several months ago, and this is on display at the Museum of Nebraska Art in Kearney right now. And then we can tile a bunch of videos together. So here are 16 of our cameras. The top left one is from Lake Agnes, which you guys saw a picture of earlier, and then the bottom right one is also the Missouri Platte River confluence. So this basically takes you on a journey through the Platte Basin watershed. And this is also on display at Mona in Kearney right now. So we're not just using imagery, we're also pairing acoustics that we have out on the landscape with our time-lapse imagery to not just see the landscape change over time, but to identify the species that are also in that landscape. So this was also put together by Emma Brindley Buckley. So all of these systems that we're using are just tools to better understand the watershed that we live in. So another tool that we're using is trail cameras and game cameras. So these cameras have been set up on the Central Platte Crane Trust property around the Beaver Lodge for the past, I believe, 4 years. Cataloged all that data. There's over, I think, like 11,000 videos of creatures moving through it. So it's a wealth of data, not just for storytelling, but also for research purposes as well. Here are some of the videos that we've captured. So river otters, beavers, coyotes, you name it, we got it. So we're not just using time-lapse to look at big landscapes. We're using time-lapse to look at a little bit more intimate views. So this is a time-lapse that we have on Beaver Lodge. Dr. Mary Harner out of UNK has a bunch of students that are doing research surrounding these imagery. So here's a time-lapse of the Beaver Lodge deflating over 120 days. And then we also placed a time-lapse camera on a trooper swan nest up in the Nebraska sandhills. So this is watching, I forget the exact time period that it was in, but it was during breeding season. So when the swans came together, laid their eggs, and then the cygnets hatched, and then they all moved on. So our intern, Carly Kaler, who has been an intern with us for 3 years, put together this really beautiful piece. It's like 6 minutes long to compose music with this time lapse. I'm just going to show you a minute clip of it, but you'll get the idea. One more time. Well, there's a couple more. We'll see if it. Okay. So
we'll try to work on it, and we can maybe play it a bunch.
Okay.
I'm gonna go talk to the DJ.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so what do we do with all of this media that we have? We use it to tell stories that go on our website, which is plattebasingtimelapse.com. So on our website, you'll find dozens and dozens of stories that we've produced over the years. We're using these innovative technologies to really set a watershed in motion and show people the geography in a whole new way, to tell stories about the Platte River Basin. Along with stories, we've also developed STEM curriculum for middle school and high school students over the years, so you can also find that material on our website as well. So a story series that I'm currently working on in tandem with Mike Forsberg is about, it's basically highlighting certain wildlife species in the Platte Basin, talking about their natural history, their relation to water, their importance to the ecosystem, and then also the roles humans play in protecting and conserving these species. So the first story we just finished in January was called A Trout with Feathers, which is a story about the American dipper, which is North America's only aquatic songbird. So I would show you the film that I produced, which is about 9 minutes long, but we're a little bit short on time today, so you can find that on our website. So I'm just going to show you a series of images that are from the written story and the photo essay. So the North American dipper, if you see that in the landscape, it means the water quality is good, so they're definitely an indicator species. They dip and dive for their insects, so they swim underwater, and they eat the same thing that trout eat. So, the trout with feathers. Chicks, they nest on cliffs, rocky escarpments, usually along really fast-flowing rivers. So in the story, we're not just pictures of the dippers, but also what their threats are, so snagged fishing line. Or, just basic human development, rafters, encroachment of human development. So that's the typical landscape that they live in. Okay, this is Pooter Canyon near Fort Collins, Colorado. And the story we're currently working on right now is about trumpeter swans in the Nebraska sandhills. So this is a short video that will give you a taste for what the film is going to look like. Carly Kaler, who's our intern, who's working pretty closely with me on creating this film, she put this together a couple months ago. So let's see if this one works.
Trumpeter swans in itself are definitely great indicator species as to how healthy a pond is up here in the sandhills. These birds were reintroduced back in the 1960s, so we've been tracking these swans. We're looking where they're going in the winter.
I think you got in front of her.
And with the sandhills, it's been fairly untouched. You come to this place and you start to look around and just see what incredible beauty is here. Talk to any landowner. They love their swans and they're cherished.
So there's a couple more shoots that we need to do to complete the film. We're interviewing Ranger Shelley Kelly, who's the director of the Sandhills Task Force, in a couple weeks, and then another rancher named A.B. Cox. So hopefully the schedule is to have this done probably by the end of summer. So. And then last year I co-produced a PBS documentary with NET veteran producer Christine Leashock, and it was titled Follow the Water. So the premise of the documentary follows Mike Forsberg and Pete Stegan. Okay. The premise of the documentary follows Mike Forsberg and Pete Stegan on a 55-day, 1,300-mile traverse across the Platte River Basin. So this is Mike and Pete's wife, Kelly Seacrest, on the first day of their trip. This was the route that they took. So they started from the furthest west point in the Platte Basin on July 1st, and they sort of circumnavigated their way all the way to the drain of the Platte Missouri River confluence, and they ended their trip on August 24th. So this was all done by bike, foot, and canoe. So like I said, they started at the very most western point of the Platte Basin and biked through the vast sea of sagebrush, headed southeast to Colorado. Then they traded their bikes for backpacks and hiked 150 miles down the spine of the Continental Divide. A large community of individuals joined Mike and Pete throughout their journey. I was there for maybe a third of the time documenting the reporting, so I joined them on, I think it was 6 days of their backpacking trip, and then portions of the canoeing as well. So after they left the mountains, they again traded their backpacks for bikes, and they biked through the rapidly growing Front Range of Colorado and energy-booming grasslands of eastern Colorado. And once they reached the border of Wyoming and Nebraska, they then traded their bikes for canoes, and they canoed across the entire state of Nebraska. So this traverse was all an effort to engage the public in a dialogue about where their water comes from and the journey that it takes to get from mountains to plains. And this documentary was aired nationally on PBS this past Earth Day, so just a couple weeks ago. And I believe you can watch it online now. And if not that, the DVD is for sale, so. And I really want to emphasize to you all that this project's, not just me and the mics, it's, large community of student interns, of researchers, of technicians, you name it, we've got it. I think the majority of our team right now is student interns, and they're very critical to our project. So we're really happy and fortunate to be able to have that program. And then last, I just wanted to end a talk with a piece that I edited together a couple years ago. It just encompasses what a watershed is. So hopefully this one plays.